What do you say? What do you know? It's the full Monte Sports Show. It is Sunday, August 16th, 2020. I am your host, Monte Perez, a.k.a. The Sports Whisperer. You can follow me all over social media on Twitter, MonteJP231, on Facebook, Monte Perez, and on Instagram, Monte Perez2. That is Monte with an E, not a Y. I want to thank everyone for tuning in over the past few weeks. The numbers have been sensational. We had 36 states tune in across the country to the full Monte Sports Show last week. The goal is to be on the air 5 days a week. I can only do that with your help. So if you like sports and comedy, you like this show, feel free to repost this YouTube video all over your social media accounts. And we love the comments on the top right-hand corner. I used to do a podcast, but I realized I had to get be more visual. I had to be more interactive. And one of the ways we do that is by the comments. And one of the things I've noticed over the first few weeks of the show with the comments is people really like to make fun of me in the comments. I am the only host in America that really, really cries after he reads the comments after the show because you guys attack me mercilessly. But it's fine. It's all in good fun. So please, keep the comments coming, and also subscribe to Nuts and Bolts Sports on YouTube. They are putting together a great list of shows almost every night of the week. They have something going on, so subscribe to Nuts and Bolts Sports. We have the best guests all over the country, and that's why this show is taking off, and this week is no exception. In about 20 minutes, Karita Parks will join us. She's going to be talking about the Washington football team. And we'll try to get some, Washington Wizards questions in as well with the NBA bubble. They are not in the playoffs. We'll talk about where that franchise is going. And then Chris Roseviglu. Both of these guests have been on my podcast. Chris is going to talk about the New Orleans Saints. Look, I got into a heated discussion with Rico last week. My brother attacked me. People attacked me all week on social media because I said the New Orleans Saints are not an elite football team. And you guys just came at me. So Chris is probably going to yell at me. Then one of our favorite guests, George Lopez, is going to join us to break down the first round of the NBA playoffs. George will talk about the West and give us his predictions, and yours truly will break down the East. I will also have 2 articles tomorrow. Normally, I don't like doing that. I like to do 1 article for a couple of days, let it marinate, let people read it. But I will have the Eastern Conference first round preview and the Western Conference first round preview and predictions on both exclusively on Nuts and Bolts Sports tomorrow. So check that out. And then at the end of the show, Rico, Show Me the Money Graziano is going to join us. Look, we have a huge, I'm not even going to say it's huge, big, extraordinary, gigantic. We have a big announcement at the top of the hour to deal with this show. So you want to stay tuned for that. It's going to be exciting. Rico, every time he comes on, it's always hilarious. But first, let's start our journey with this. Now listen, if you aren't wearing a mask at the beach while out running or walking your dog or riding your bike, that's a me problem. I have to avoid you. Florida here has been the epicenter of the pandemic. We had a record number of deaths last week. So listen, if you aren't wearing a mask and you're at the beach, you're walking your dog, that's a me problem. I gotta somehow find to social distance myself from you. But if you're at the grocery store, if you're at the gym, if you're at the department store and you aren't wearing a mask, yeah, we're gonna have a problem. We're gonna have a big problem. But let me preface by saying, I look at people who don't wear masks now or people who think the coronavirus is fake like VCRs. They still make you? Like, are you kidding me? VCRs have no use. And I have no use for people who aren't going to social distance themselves. By the way, what was the last movie you watched on VCR? Mine was Rocky IV. And I'll never forget, because after I watched it, the tape broke inside my VCR and I threw it out. And I'm going to say something here that people are going to be upset with. Rocky IV is the worst of all the Rocky movies. Yeah, I said it. Rocky IV is the worst of all the Rocky movies. I mean, look at this. He holds up the Russian diplomat in the middle of the fight. Like, this would never happen. And I know people are going to say, oh, Monte, Rocky V. Rocky V is not a Rocky movie. He doesn't fight in the ring in Rocky V. So again, my friend Jay, who works out to the Rocky IV soundtrack, and Jay's like 23 years old, so it's not like he's an old guy. He loves Rocky IV. It's the worst movie. But let's get back to my social distancing. I was at Trader Joe's, okay, like I do on most Saturdays, and they do a tremendous job of everyone wearing a mask. They let 30 people in at a time. One person leaves, the next person enters. So I'm online, just waiting with my mask, and this woman says to me, we don't need a mask. This is fake. Let me repeat that. She said, well, we don't need a mask. This is fake. Then she says, wait for it. Wait for it. You know why we don't need to wear masks? I was going to my sister's barbecue. I parked a block and a half away, and I could smell the barbecue with a mask on. Now, this is me getting all riled up. So I said to the woman, look, I'm not Bill Nye, the science guy, but I know this. Gases and fragrances are totally different than a virus. And I even broke it down to make it simpler. I said, look, you could smell a barbecue from a block and a half away. But if someone sneezes a block and a half away, you're not going to get sick. If someone sneezes a block and a half away from you, you're not going to get sick. That is not how the virus travels. So she said to me, you know what? I'm not going to shop here. I'm not going to be surrounded by intellectual elites like yourself. She called me an intellectual elite. Now, look, I've never been called beautiful. I've been called hot, sexy, attractive, good-looking, Latino heat. I mean, these are the names that I say about myself in my head. But I've never been called beautiful, and I've never been called an intellectual elite. So when I went shopping at Trader Joe's, after she called me the intellectual elite, I was dancing in the aisle. I was dancing in the aisle. I was so happy. I'm an intellectual elite. Finally, someone is giving me the recognition I deserve. I know politics. I know sports. I'm a former chef. I know how to cook. I'm a former personal trainer. I know how to work people out. So yes, I am an intellectual elite. But all that stopped. All that came crashing down. As I'm leaving the store, she must have came back because she was talking to the 16-year-old who was picking up the carts outside of Trader Joe's, and she was arguing with him. And he says, ma'am, this is for your protection. We both need to wear masks so I don't spread it and you don't spread it. And she said to him, you're an intellectual elite. Wait, what? Wait, I thought I was the intellectual elite. So it reminded me, okay, of the Seinfeld episode where Elaine is at a weekend house in the Hampton, and this hunk of a man, this beautiful man, a doctor, says, Elaine, you're quite breathtaking. And Elaine's like, I'm breathtaking? She was so happy. But then she realized about 15 minutes later, they're looking at the ugliest baby in the world, and the doctor says the same thing. The doctor says, the baby's quite breathtaking. So, do you see what's happening here? I was being called an intellectual elite, and then I realized when she told the 16-year-old that he was an intellectual elite, I became Fredo. I'm smart. like everyone says, I thought I was getting the recognition I deserved, and I did it. Now, do you see what I did there? Do you see what I did? So I started, okay, with Rocky IV. And then I ended with The Godfather. You know why? Talia Shire. Underrated. Not glamorous, but she got the job done. Does anyone have any idea what I'm talking about right now? But do you see how I brought it all together? It all starts and ends with Talia Shire, and no one knows what the hell I'm talking about. So let's move on. We start each show with the good, the bad, and the ugly. So I look at people, like I said, who don't wear a mask, like VCRs, right? I look at them like they still make you. And I look at people to this day who criticize Colin Kaepernick, right? Why are we criticizing Colin Kaepernick? Kaepernick continuing to help aid families in struggling amid the global COVID-19 pandemic. Colin Kaepernick's Know Your Rights camp has teamed up with ABC Los Angeles to help fight against LA hunger. The former NFL player turned social justice activist donated 4,500 plant-based Impossible patties on Friday, August 7th to Los Angeles Regional Food Bank. Kaepernick's latest donation is part of a campaign. They're trying to feed 1 million people. Let me repeat that. Colin Kaepernick is not just talking about it. He's being about it. They are trying to feed 1 million people. We're going to try to get one of their representatives on our show. Their website is knowyourrightscamp.com. It's a great organization. Food banks, listen, food banks can stretch the dollar and stretch food like no one else. Food banks should be in charge of our national budget because they would do a tremendous job. So I have reached out to their organization. Again, knowyourrightscamp.com. If you feel like donating $1, $3, $5, it'll be a tremendous help to them. So that's part of the good. Now, let's go to the good one more time. The Rangers, the New York Rangers, were among 8 teams that lost the qualifying round of the playoffs with a chance to claim quite the consolation prize on Monday. The Rangers got the #1 overall pick for the first time since 1965 when they selected Andre Vilou. The Rangers will be selecting Alex Lafreniere. The sturdy 6'1" Lafreniere had 114 goals, 297 points in 173 games in the Quebec Major Junior League. The 18-year-old winger also captained the Canadian gold medal winning team. Look, he's going to score 100 points in the next couple of years for the New York Rangers. And I know what everyone's thinking. Monty, no one cares about hockey. But to that 1% out there, like my brother Pete and a few people who actually care about hockey, I'm saluting you and cheers, because as a Ranger fan, this is huge news. Like I said, this kid is going to be a bona fide 100-point scorer for the next few years, for the next decade, actually. So we are so happy that he is going to be a New York Ranger. So that was the good. Now, we have to move to the bad. We start the show with the good, the bad, and the ugly. Now, right here is Trevor Lawrence. Now, look, I love this kid. Trevor Lawrence is the stud quarterback who is genetically bred in a lab to be quarterback for the Clemson Tigers. Now, Trevor Lawrence wants to play college football, and rightly so. And he tweeted this: "People are just as much, if not more, at risk if we don't play. Players will all be sent home to their own communities where social distancing is highly unlikely, and medical care and expenses will be placed on families if they were to contract COVID-19. Now look, Trevor Lawrence makes a great case here. Trevor Lawrence is saying we'll get tested every day if we're playing. We'll be forced to wear a mask. But here's where Trevor's missing, and no one on the media has talked about this. Here's where Trevor Lawrence, who is a healthy 6'4", 235 pounds, the kid's destined to be the #1 pick in the draft. Like I said, if you were going to build a quarterback in a lab, it would be Trevor Lawrence. He's that good. He's that good. But here's what the media is missing, and no one's talked about this. And here's what Trevor doesn't understand. What about the equipment managers? What about all the coaches who are over 50? What about the referees? What about the people who work the sidelines? Okay, we're talking now that most of the people around these college kids are older gentlemen, older women. What about the team doctors? Yes, you're going to be tested every day, but do I expect college kids to social distance on a campus site after a big win and they're at a party? Of course not. Of course not. Now look, this is Scott Frost. Now I love Scott Frost. Scott Frost was the offense coordinator for the Oregon Ducks. I wanted Oregon to make Scott Frost their head coach. They did it. He left Oregon and became the head coach of UCF, University of Central Florida. The year before Scott Frost got there, UCF went 0-12. He gets there, they go 6-7, then they go 13-0. He is the first coach to turn around a program who didn't win a game 2 years ago and then go undefeated. Scott Frost left UCF to go to his alma mater, Nebraska. Now, I'll never tell anyone don't go home again. Good for you, Scott. But the year he left UCF, they had a better recruiting class than Miami, than Florida State, than South Florida. The only team that had a better recruiting class was Florida. They were 13-0. So Scott goes back to Nebraska. He was 4-8 last year, 5-7 this year, 9-15, 6-12 in the Big Ten Conference. Scott Frost, with his toxic masculinity, said, we're going to find a way to play. No, you're not, Scott. You know why you're not going to find a place to play? Because Nebraska gets $52 million every year from the Big Ten Conference. $52 million. So you could want to play, Scott, but they're not going to allow it. They're not going to allow it. And if you do play, you're going to get kicked out of that. You think the president of Nebraska is going to say, yeah, we'll turn away $52 million to a coach that has gone 4-8 and 5-7? And again, I love Scott Frost. I wanted the Ducks to get him. But he's been a disaster in Nebraska. Disaster. Now, it's amazing because all these governors, right? You have Brian Kemp in Georgia, came out this week. Brian Kemp said, and I quote, we need college football. Okay, Brian, you're also the same guy who is suing the mayor of Atlanta because she wants everyone in Atlanta to wear a mask when they're out in public. So Scott Frost, so Brian Kemp, don't tell me you need college football when you have refused to let people wear masks. Okay, Ted Cruz in Texas has said the same thing. Ted Cruz in Texas has said the same thing. We don't need to wear masks. Now he wants Texas to play football. You know what this reminds me of? You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of a friend of mine. We were going to train for a marathon. He didn't train. And then the day of the marathon comes and boom. He ran 2 miles and that was it. He had to stop. It was a 10-mile marathon. He had 3 months to train. All these governors are saying we want college football. Scott Frost, I want college football. But you haven't done the necessary steps to take it. So there's not going to be college football in the Big Ten. There's not going to be college football in the Pac-12. I love college football more than anyone. How many times can I say college football in a paragraph? But it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So that's the bad. We go to the good. We go to the bad. And now we go to the ugly. Look, I'm a fan of Devin Booker, right? This is Devin Booker. He lit it up in the bubble. The Phoenix Suns went 8-0 in the bubble, and they still didn't make the playoffs. They went 8-0 in the bubble. They still didn't make the playoffs. Draymond Green, who I'm kind of not really a fan of. Draymond Green, okay, said on TNT, and I quote, we need to get Devin out of Phoenix. Okay, we need to get Devin out of Phoenix. He needs to play on a team where he could win and he could thrive. So the NBA fined Draymond Green $50,000. Now look, if you invite an NBA player to your telecast, you can't fine him for words. They call it tampering. Now, $50,000 is not a lot of money, but why would I go on a show on TNT when I can't be real? Draymond Green was being real. And for all you Phoenix Suns fans out there, let me explain something to you. You could have drafted Luka Doncic of the Dallas Cowboys, but the owner of the Phoenix Suns went to Arizona, so they drafted DeAndre Ayton, who's from Arizona. You had TJ Warren, who's lighting it up in the bubble. He was on Phoenix. You traded him. Your top three could have been Luka Doncic, Devin Booker, and TJ Warren. I mean, that's pretty scary. So, Phoenix, don't come at Draymond Green for saying what everyone was thinking about the Phoenix Suns. Great job by them going 8-0, but again, they did not get to the playoffs. And there you have it, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So now we're going to do one of my favorite things, and that is, before we get Karita Parks on and Chris Rosaglou, we're going to surf the crowd. What is I fight for me. I fight for me. Yes, because that is what we all know about Rocky IV, who I said in the opening statement was the worst of all the Rocky movies. I fight for me. Great job there, Julio. Keep the comments coming. We're going to bring on Karita Parks right now. You can follow her on social media. She does a tremendous job. She's been on the show before, and you can follow her and just talking about the Washington football team. You can follow her talking about the Washington Wizards, and really just really gives great insight to the Washington situation there. How are you this morning? Thanks so much for joining us.
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks so much. We had you on the podcast. We loved you. What we try to do is we always try to make the guests feel welcome and comfortable and put them in a good mood. I know you're going to be talking about the Washington football team, so you might not be in a good mood during that time. So I'm going to post this picture, and I just want you to, just tell me what it means to you. And also, is he the greatest coach in NFL history, Joe Gibbs? Because he won 3 different Super Bowls with 3 different quarterbacks.
This, to me, reminds me of the glory days. Yes. I mean, he's definitely the greatest football coach in Washington's time.
I mean, he won with Joe Theismann, right? He won with Doug Williams, and he won with Mark Rippon. So he won 3 different Super Bowls with 3 different quarterbacks.
I mean, that is definitely a telltale sign of his coaching. 3 different quarterbacks, that's tough to do. So he's definitely one of the greatest coaches of all time.
Now, I have the utmost respect for him, and he's been a tremendous success in NASCAR, correct?
Yeah.
I mean, he's winning titles. And let's put your little background here to make you feel a little bit home. So we got the Washington background. Okay.
Something new for me. I got to get used to this, but I like it.
It's a full stadium, which something probably we won't see this year. Okay, so now let's talk serious. It's been a terrible offseason for the Washington football team. 15 separate women accusing Washington higher-ups of sexual harassment. Former Washington football team running back Darius Geis is accused of choking his girlfriend until he was unconscious during one of 3 separate incidents. Talk about this upcoming season. Is this a distraction? What are people thinking, and what's going on?
Oh, it's definitely a distraction to football, all the off-field issues. I think for the players, they want to play. They're focused on football, and this definitely doesn't help. But, all in all, unfortunately, Washington, they have these off-the-field issues. And like I said, none of this really helps. But the guys, they want to play football. And you also have like COVID-19 going on, and the fact that there was a chance that they couldn't play this season. So they're just ready to get out there on the field.
Yeah, listen, I think, they're being tested almost every day. The NBA bubble has done a tremendous job. The NHL, they've had over 11,000 tests. No one has come back positive, so that's a great thing. And for fans watching right now, the live comments are not working. We'll work on that, so just watch the show and feel free to tweet me. Okay, so walk me through this here. Quarterback Alex Smith has had 17 surgeries. When I saw that, I couldn't believe it. Is he seriously thinking about coming back? And is there going to be a competition between him and Dwayne Haskins?
He's definitely thinking about coming back. I don't know if you saw the news, but it broke that he has been cleared for football activity. So we will see him off the PUP list and he'll be in practice. Now, will there be a competition between him and Haskins? I personally don't think there's going to be a competition. I mean, you have to be very, very careful with Alex Smith coming off of such a devastating injury. Now, Ron Rivera did say that he would be in the mix, but it's just hard for me to see this not being Dwayne Haskins' football team this upcoming season. So, but I definitely think we will see Alex Smith on the field, at least from a practice perspective. And you never know, but I don't see him being the starter. I just don't think that would be smart.
You know, the way I see it is I kind of see it with Tua here in Miami with what's his name? What's the Miami quarterback? I forgot his name. Anyway, I look at Alex Smith as like a mentor, you know, like someone who could just really, if he's not 100% healthy, you want him in the room. He did this with the Kansas City Chiefs quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, right? He mentored him. He could be a great leader for Dwayne Haskins. I was thinking about Ryan Fitzpatrick here in Miami to mentor Tua, right? So, I mean, having him in the room is a good thing, no?
Yes, 100%. He was a mentor even when he wasn't on the field. But to have him on the field with these young guys, I mean, it's just going to automatically increase their competitiveness. And, you know, like I said, I don't think that we're going to see him actually play in the game. I would be very surprised by that. But I do believe that having his presence amongst those young guys is going to be great. And he'll be a wonderful mentor, as he has been.
No, like I said, everywhere he's gone, he did it with Colin Kaepernick. He did it with in Kansas City, and now he could do it in Washington. So I think having him in the building can only be a positive. And talk about perseverance, talk about mental toughness. I mean, people talk about rehabbing. I had 2 torn rotator cuffs over the past 4 years, and just rehabbing one time, he had 17 surgeries, which is insane.
It's insane. And I don't know if you saw that documentary, but yes. Put it in perspective. It's like we didn't know the kind of pain that he was going through. Like we heard that the leg was infected, but we just didn't know the pain that he was dealing with and the road that he had to travel. So if anything, this is a lesson on perseverance. Nobody thought he would play football again after that injury, but yet here he is. So whether he's on the field or not, this is a great story. And it's positive for Washington, a positive story coming out of Washington.
Yes, he's definitely, I think the locker room really respects him. And I think let's talk about your head coach. Now, I don't know how great he is, wins and losses. He had limited success in Carolina. They went to a Super Bowl. He had a 15-1 year, and then he struggled. But one thing he brings to an organization is he brings discipline. He brings instant respect and credibility. A no-nonsense guy who's also a player's coach, where someone like Bill Belichick is a no-nonsense guy, but no one would say he's a player's coach, right? So they're saying that he's a player's coach as well, correct?
That's correct. And it's a good balance, right? Because he's a player's coach, but then they also respect him. Reuben Foster, as you know, has also been activated and he should be coming back. But the other day they asked him about Ron Rivera and the first thing out of his mouth was, I trust him. And that goes a long way, I believe, with players. You know, I had a conversation with Sammy Watkins at Super Bowl, and he said the same thing about Andy Reid. Like he trusted him. And I think that when you trust your head coach, and you respect your head coach, that translates to the field. Plus, I know Ron Rivera didn't have a stellar record in Carolina, but he was coach of the year, I believe, twice. He took them to a Super Bowl. Cam improved. So there's a lot of positives with Ron Rivera, and I believe that he is the coach that Washington needs right now with this young squad and just everything that we are going through off the field. You know, when you hear Ron Rivera respond to these things, it's like you automatically feel a sense of ease, like, okay, he's got this.
Yeah, there's a certain level of maturity and professionalism and no nonsense, which you respect from your head coach. We're talking with Karita Parks, talking about the Washington football team. We are going to bring on Chris Roswick. Chris, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me back on the show. Hope everyone's doing well. Looking forward to talking some football.
All right, Chris, we did this with Karita with the Washington football team. We're going to do this with you. We try to get people in a good mood. I think you're going to yell at me when I say the Saints aren't an elite football team. So talk about what this moment meant to you right there. The Saints' only Super Bowl and Drew Brees with Sean Payton right there.
I mean, look, it's my favorite sports moment, no doubt. But I think the only issue with that sports moment is ever since that day for the last, 9, 10 years, I've been sitting here waiting for the second one. And they're getting so close, but it's not happening. So I'm getting a little salty every time I see that picture.
Love the terminology salty, so we're going to give you props for that. So when we start this question, I'm going to be going back and forth between the Washington football background, and here you go, just to make you feel at home. I know your background has that, so I'm just trying to make you feel welcome. So, okay, here we go. Let me have it. I said last week that the Saints aren't an elite football team with one of my co-hosts, Nico Graziano. My brother just totally killed me. I got killed all over social media. Here's my answer to that. They won one Super Bowl. They've been to one Super Bowl. To me, an elite football program, you got to be there at least 2 times in the past 10 years. What say you?
So, I mean, I think realistically it comes down to whatever your interpretation is of an elite football team. But I think the Saints, I would put them as an elite football team, and I'll tell you why. Out of the last 10 years, we've seen them make the playoffs. Over the last 3 years, they've won 37 regular season games. And the way I look at the Saints is like, yeah, look, they only have one Super Bowl from that long span. They've only been to one. But look at the way they lose, too. They don't lose like a normal team. They lose on the last second. If it's not the Minnesota Miracle, it's the no call. If it's not the no call, it's Kyle Rudolph in overtime. And we can even go back to 2011. They lost to the 49ers in the divisional round. Alex Smith had arguably his best game as a pro, ends up throwing that game-winning touchdown pass to Vernon Davis. And if the Saints actually won that game, you end up playing the Giants, who they beat on Monday night a couple of weeks before the playoffs even begun. So I think for me personally, there aren't a lot of elite football teams in this league. And outside the Patriots, no one really gets to the Super Bowl enough on a consistent basis. So I think from my metrics, at least, that's why I believe the Saints are one of the few elite football teams, because I feel like when they have a good defense, you know what they're getting on offense, and that propels them into the playoffs. And might I add, the 4 years that they missed, one of the years they didn't have Sean Payton because of the Bounty Gate suspension. And you have to wonder, in 2011, they won 13 games. 2012, Sean Payton suspended. They only win 7. Did we get a good year jip there? No one really knows. But at least for my metrics, I think they are an elite football team.
Okay, fair enough. But I will say this. Okay, heartbreaking playoff losses over the past 3 years. The Hail Mary to Stephon Diggs, just unacceptable. You lose to the Vikings at home with Kirk Cousins, who really has not been a primetime performer. Up until last year, he wasn't. And then, obviously the blown call with the Rams. My brother's still angry about it. So my question to you is, we look at Bill Belichick, and I'll go back to this. In the Super Bowl against Seattle, where everyone was saying, Bill Belichick, you need to take a timeout, 1st and goal for Seattle. They knew the play that was coming. They didn't call a timeout. Russell Wilson throws the interception. We later find out that they knew, they practiced that play on Friday. Everyone told the defensive back, it's coming your way, it's coming your way. So my question to you is, we're seeing, the Saints in the first round of the playoffs didn't show up last year. We're seeing a Hail Mary pass to Stephon Diggs, blown coverage. At what point does Sean Payton, who drives me crazy with his time management and putting in, Hill at quarterback inside the 5-yard line when you have the most efficient passer in the history of the NFL and Drew Brees, at what point do we say, Sean Payton, when it comes to close games, you're failing?
I think it's close. So I think we have to find a balance. I think you put it right, though. I think at some point we have to say, hey, he's an offensive genius. We're not going to deny that. But there are times where Sean Payton's clock management's not great. And I take you back to the Rams NFC Championship game. You're inside 2 minutes. They actually threw the ball 2 out of 3 plays instead of running the clock. Could have burnt another timeout there. I will add this, though. This has been an issue with a lot of Saints fans. A lot of them aren't happy about it. There are times where Sean Payton will call run plays inside 2 minutes, and Drew Brees will just check out of it because he sees the coverage, he knows what he's going to get. So there's a good amount of times where Drew Brees will actually just change the play that Sean Payton ends up calling. I do think that Sean Payton's management has to get a little bit better. But at the same time, you're not going to find many coaches better than Sean Payton. So I think the Saints are really stuck with what they got. And because of that, late game situations, we're going to be sitting there biting our nails, worrying about what's going on. So I think it's just the risky situation the Saints are in. They're going to have to live with it.
Okay, Karita, back to you. I think Washington picked the best defensive player in the draft in Ohio State's defensive lineman, Chase Young. I think he could be better than the Bosa brothers. I am so high on this guy. He has a motor that doesn't quit. Talk about this team, and I love their 4th-round pick, Antonio Gandy Golden, wide receiver out of Liberty. I wanted the Jets to get him. I wanted the Eagles to get him. I've seen a ton of film on this kid. I love him. Talk about their draft picks.
Both talented draft picks. Antonio Gandy Golden, he's went down to the 4th round, but I think that's because there were so many elite receivers in this draft. But he easily could have been a 1st or 2nd rounder. He's also was from a small school, which sometimes can impact where you are in the draft. But he's very talented. He has an opportunity to step up this year now that Kelvin Harmon actually tore his ACL in the offseason. So now he has an opportunity to easily take that 2nd receiver position beside Terry McLaurin. And I cannot, Terry McLaurin and Antonio Gandy Golden, I think, will be an amazing duo. So he's tall, he's got size, he's got hands, he can go up there and get the ball. So really looking forward to what he can do on the field. Chase Young, without saying, he's a generational talent. He is an addition to an already talented defensive line.
Very good. Underrated defense.
Underrated. Let's not forget that. They are extremely talented. They just haven't had a coach to put that together, but I think Jack Del Rio will know exactly what to do with them. And you have Chase Young, elite pass rusher. He's just going to add to this amazing defense that Washington does have. And I think we'll see that come together this year. But, besides that, he is a local talent. So that's also positive and brings a lot of energy to that pick for Washington.
Again, I'm a little torn here because I love the pick. I love Chase Young. Like you said, I think he's going to be J.J. Watt type of player, that good. But can I argue here? Can I argue that they should have taken Tua, that they should have taken Justin Herbert, that they should have taken a franchise quarterback? Am I wrong in saying that?
I don't think you pass up Chase Young at all. I don't think you pass up Chase Young, and they didn't. So I think it was a smart move. Dwayne Haskins, I think it remains to be seen if he'll be a franchise quarterback. But Dwayne Haskins is talented. I think we will see that come together in his 2nd year. He's worked in the offseason. He knows that this is his team this year. He had the problem last year of not knowing if he was going to be at the helm, and he was thrown into some predicaments. So this year, we'll see him from the beginning to the end of the season, really see what he can do. And then if you need to draft another quarterback or look at another quarterback, okay, but you don't pass up Chase Young.
Fair enough. Fair point. Okay. Chris, before we talk about this offense, let's talk about the defense. I love linebacker Zach Braun out of Wisconsin. I think he could be a 100-tackle guy. Is that a fair assessment? Am I overrating what you guys got?
I don't think you're overrating it. I think it's going to take him time, though, because I think Zach Braun is a rare linebacker that he's not that traditional guy who you're just going to put in the middle of the defense and sit him there for, every single snap. But what you can do with Zach Braun and why I really like him is he's versatile. You could get him in some pass rushing situations. You can let him cover running backs. And you saw at Wisconsin, he could do a little bit of everything. He had 12.5 sacks. He had 1 interception. He had 75 tackles. And I think for me, the pro comparison for him that might work is Kyle Van Noy. But the Kyle Van Noy I'll use is the Patriots Kyle Van Noy, not the one you saw with the Detroit Lions. But right. I think that's what the Saints are kind of getting. I think they're getting a linebacker who gives them a little bit of everything. If you're a Saints fan, obviously you want him to be more of a traditional linebacker because outside of Demario Davis, they don't have much at that position. But I think the Saints are going to love what they're getting from him. And what I love about Zach Braun is that he could, as a rookie, give you maybe 3.5 sacks. And for a defensive line that has a lot of question marks because Marcus Davenport's been hurt, Sheldon Rankin's been hurt, I think they'll definitely take that as well.
Well, that's my biggest question here. Listen, I say this all the time with the new NFL. You don't need to have a great defense, but what you need to do is do what the Kansas City Chiefs do, and that is attack the quarterback and cause turnovers, get interceptions. So the strength of this defense is it the back four? It's not the defensive line. Where are they going to go for turnovers? Where are they going to go to put pressure on the quarterback?
Well, I think what they need to do, and this all depends on one guy. I think it depends on Marshawn Lattimore. If you look at the secondary, just from a starting lineup, it's pretty good. I mean, you have Lattimore on one side. You have Janoris Jenkins, who I get takes a lot of criticism, but Janoris Jenkins as a cornerback too, it's a pretty good spot for him. And then you have Marcus Williams, who I know the guy continues to get ripped for the Minnesota Miracle, but every year he continues to produce. Last year he had 4 interceptions, made him one of the top safeties.
You like him, right? You like him.
I do like him. I think, look, he's not a good tackler. I think we all saw what happened in Minnesota. And George Kittle, remember, he had that fourth down play this past season where he basically carried Marcus Williams on his back. So he can't tackle. But luckily for him, the Saints have two other safeties who they can use. Malcolm Jenkins now coming back. He's definitely a pretty good tackler and a good leader for that secondary. And they also have a young kid who I really like, who formerly was known as C.J. Gardner-Johnson, and I kid you not, changed his name last week to CD Deuce. So I'm going to have to get used to saying that name now. But he's also someone who, if Saints fans keep a close eye on him, he's going to be an interesting kid because you could throw him in the nickel. You could use him as a strong safety. You use him as a free safety, move him everywhere. So I think the Saints secondary, if they're healthy and if Lattimore can get back to his rookie year production, they can force some turnovers. And like you said, you don't have to be a top 10, top 15 defense, but can you be an opportunistic defense? I think they could.
No, great points all around. We're talking with Karina Parks and Chris Rosenblum on the Full Monty Sports Show. Again, we're having problems with the comments, so just feel free to hit me up on Twitter. So, Karina, we've talked about earlier before with the professionalism with Ron Rivera, with their defensive coordinator. Now, when this search was going on, they pretty much snatched him up pretty quickly. Did you have someone else in mind before we start the season? Are you happy with this hire? Are you happy with what he's done so far?
I'm happy with the hire, and I am happy with what he's done so far. I didn't have anyone in particular in mind. I just knew that they needed a coach who was going to hold the team accountable, and that was going to be somewhat of a disciplinarian. And I think what they got in Ron Rivera is just that. And like I said, I like the fact that he's also a player's coach. And I personally think that Dan Snyder respects him, which we need, because as we've seen in years past, he's tried to be behind the scenes. And I just don't think Ron Rivera is going to deal with that. If that's still the case, either he will leave or Dan Snyder will back off. So either way it goes, I think it's a great pick. I believe the players respect Ron Rivera, and it remains to be seen what he can do with this team. But I believe that he's a good start.
So you're happy, and here's why I say that, because I'm a Jet fan. So everything the Jets do is wrong. They have not been to a Super Bowl since 1969. So my question is, the Jets just got rid of Jamal Adams. They traded him to Seattle. And my thought process is, do the Jets know more than Pete Carroll, who's been to 2 Super Bowls? Do the Jets know more than Pete Carroll, who's won a national championship? So my thought process to you is, you may like the hire, but what are the odds on Daniel Snyder and the Washington Brain Trust making the right decision?
I think that they can make right decisions. I think Ron Rivera will at least stand up for himself. Like I said, it remains to be seen, but there's been a lot going on this offseason with the accusations, with the name change. I mean, whoever thought that Dan Snyder would change the name? So I do believe that we can see more positivity from this franchise moving forward. I know everyone's used to the dumpster fires that can happen every now and then in Washington, but maybe I'm being too optimistic, but I do believe that Ron Rivera is a good choice. Dan Snyder respects him, and I do believe we'll see some improvement going forward. And I just can't think of anybody else right now that you could have put in that position that could give us some success going forward. And incremental improvements, as far as I'm concerned, yes, we want them to go to the playoffs, and hopefully he can get them to the playoffs. But incremental improvements at this point is what we need for Washington. And hopefully, like I said, in the end, we can see them in the playoffs.
Yeah, listen, as long as you have baby steps, you see a professional approach on the field and off the field, something Washington hasn't had. They've been dysfunctional. Remember, they had Sean McVay. They had the 49er coach. They had the Packer coach. They had 3 studs on their staff, and they chose to go in a different direction. But I agree with what you're saying. So, Chris, back to you here. I thought last season Drew Brees, Michael Thomas, and Alvin Kamara would be the best big 3 in football. Now we're seeing that Michael Thomas, who I said in preseason, I wrote an article about this. I said he was the best wide receiver in the game. People thought I was crazy. He had 149 catches. But let's talk about Kamara. What a disappointing year. Only 749 rushing yards. Are they the best big 3 in football?
I think they're going to be close. I'll tell you this, though. This might be tough for a rookie year, but if Clyde Edwards-Helaire gets up the starting role in Kansas City, I wouldn't be shocked if you see him, Tyreek Hill, and Mahomes take over the reins. But I want to add this about Kamara because it actually just got revealed earlier this week, and I believed it. So earlier in the year, around week 6 in Jacksonville, he was nursing an ankle injury. And then after that game, he missed 2 matchups, and they said he had a knee injury. And then later on, they said he had a back injury. Well, it came out apparently that he's been playing with a torn MCL ever since week 6 on. And I think that makes a lot of sense because if you look at earlier in the year, and the one game I'm going to pinpoint is the Seattle game, week 3, first game without Drew Brees, Bridgewater gets the start. He had 69 rushing yards, 92 receiving yards, and 2 total touchdowns. And that's one of those stat lines that we're used to seeing from Kamara. Versatile, does it through the air, does it on the ground. And I think that knee injury hurt him a lot. And another issue with the Saints was the usage. So if you look at the year-by-year number for Alvin Kamara, specifically yards per reception, his rookie year was 10.2, his second year was 8.8, and his third year this past season, 6.6. So the trend's going down, which obviously is not encouraging. But I went back and I looked at the film at the way the Saints were using him. It was a lot of dump-offs behind the line of scrimmage and a lot of Sean Payton and Drew Brees saying, hey, Alvin Kamara, make something out of nothing. And if he was hurt and he actually was playing on a torn MCL like that report says, then I think it makes sense why he didn't play well. But I think at least for this upcoming season, if he is healthy, he has to play for a big contract. We all know that he wants that money. And the running back market went up with Derrick Henry, with Christian McCaffrey. I think Kamara is going to bounce back, and I was just as disappointed as you were. I took him in fantasy early. I'm watching. I'm telling Saints fans he's going to turn the corner, and he never really did. Late in the year.
Did losing Mark Ingram, sort of his mentor, Mark Ingram, we talked about this with Alex Smith or Ryan Fitzpatrick. Mark Ingram, young running backs love him because he's a pro out of Alabama. So did losing him maybe hurt Kamara's preparation?
I don't think it hurt his preparation, but I'll tell you what it did hurt, Monte. That's a great point that you brought up. When Alvin was hurt, his body language was completely off. He did not look energized on the sidelines. Us Saints fans were like, oh, my God, does he even want to be here? And we were worrying. Mark Ingram, if you see what he does in Baltimore, he hypes up Lamar Jackson nonstop. He's always with the media, telling him how much he loves his teammates. I think Alvin Kamara really missed that energy in having Mark Ingram sitting there and being behind him and supporting him and saying, you got this, you're a great running back. So I think that definitely hurt him. I don't think it hurt his preparation. From what everyone says, AK's, one of the first guys in the room, one of the last guys to leave. But I do think absolutely not having that energy, not having that guy that you lean on in those tough moments did hurt last season.
Yeah, listen, when you lose a leader, I don't care how many leaders in the locker room, and we know this if you follow football, each organization, the tight ends, the running backs, the wide receivers, they're in meetings together. So they're not – people think that football players are always together. They're really not. They're together on the practice field. So losing someone like Mark Ingram kind of hurt him. Karita, real quick, we have about 3 minutes left before we get George Lopez on. We're talking to Karita Parks and Chris Rosaglu on the Full Monty Sports Show. Does Dwayne Haskins start the entire year? And money on the line, you're a gambling woman right now. Is Dwayne Haskins your franchise quarterback for the next 5 to 7 years?
Ooh, that's a hard question.
We ask hard questions here.
I think he starts, and I do think he starts the entire season. The team is rebuilding, so there's really no reason not to allow him to start the whole season. Plus, it still remains to be seen if there'll be a whole season. So I definitely think we'll see that. And I'm going to go with he is a franchise quarterback for the next 5 to 7 years. I believe that he's being counted out. And, I can understand why he didn't have the best start last season. But being at those games, I saw improvement every single game. I saw the chemistry increase with his receivers. I saw him grow as a leader. So I do believe that he has that in him to be the franchise quarterback for the next few years. And also, he knows he's been counted out. And I think that we'll see that translate to the football field as well.
Yeah, listen, I think they're going to have a great defense. I think Ron Rivera is going to put him in the best position to win, meaning, look, don't do anything crazy. Our defense will create turnovers. So I think he should have a productive year. Chris, we talked about this on my podcast with you. Taysom Hill signed a $21 million contract. He rushed the ball 27 times, threw the ball 6 times, and caught 19 receptions. My first thought when I looked at the stats on this guy and him getting a $21 million contract is like, Sean Payton is paying this guy just because he likes him, because the production on the field doesn't warrant that money.
Yeah, look, from what he's done right now, it doesn't warrant it. But the interesting thing in the contract, the way it's built, actually gives the Saints some hope. So for this year only, It's a little bit over $4 million because it's the tender money, and the Saints can't pay over what that tender is. So basically for this year, he's not playing quarterback. Who are we kidding? He's going to be a wide receiver. He's going to be a tight end. He's going to be used in the backfield. So he's going to get $4 million for his, I guess, gadget services, if you want to call it. And then next year, he's getting that 16, 17 million remaining from that $21 million extension that you talked about. So basically, the Saints are banking on him next year being their starting quarterback. And the good thing is there's no commitment after that. So if he doesn't work out and Sean Payton was wrong and this guy really is just a really fun trick player and not a quarterback, then all right, the Saints don't have the long-term commitment. Or it ends up working out where somehow Taysom Hill actually is a decent quarterback and the Saints are paying him $16 million, which in today's quarterback market's pretty reasonable, I'd say. But it is a weird deal. I think Saints fans have to have patience with it, and they also have to understand he's not getting all that money this year. Next year is where they have to be nervous and say, is he actually going to be worth that 16, 17 million that was extra added to their contract?
Okay, Karita, real quick, we have about a minute left for each one of you guys. I want to thank you both so much for joining us. Big prediction time now. Give us your prediction for every team record-wise in this division. Dallas, Philadelphia, New York, and Washington.
Okay, the Eagles, I'm going to give them 11-5. I think they'll improve.
So you think they win the division?
I do think they'll win the division. They have the most continuity. Let me also say that. They have the most continuity. They filled in some of their weaknesses. And so I think without a preseason and without a regular OTAs and a regular offseason, I have to take into consideration continuity. So I think they do win the division, 11-5. I believe Cowboys will improve. I'm going to give them 10-6. The Giants and the Redskins are both in a rebuild year. So for the Giants, looking at their schedule, I'm going 3-13. And
Whoa.
Yeah, sorry. And for the Redskins, I'm actually giving them 5-11. I think that's worst case scenario, and they could possibly win 6 games.
Did you say the Giants are going 3-13?
The Giants have a very tough schedule. I did look at their schedule. They have a really tough schedule. So I'm sorry, but that's what I think.
Okay, so I agree with you. I think Philadelphia is the class of that division. I think one of the biggest problems going into the NFL is no training camp. So if you have a new coach, you have new coordinators, you're going to struggle. So I don't know how quickly. Dallas has the talent, but I think with Carson Wentz, Philadelphia and their coaching staff has been together. The Giants have a new coaching staff. Obviously, the Washington football team has a new coaching staff. Karita, how can we follow you on social media? How can we support what you are doing?
Yes, you can follow me on social media at Karita C. Parks. I also have my own platform at Double Take Sports. So it's at DBL Take Sports. And my Redskins content is on 3pointconversion.com.
Okay, real quick before we
Washington content. I'm still messing up the name.
That's okay. Real quick before we talk to Chris one last time. Okay, so I'm thinking that it's time for the Washington Wizards to just break this team up. John Wall can't stay healthy. I love Bradley Beal, but Bradley Beal needs to move somewhere where he has a chance to win. He needs to go out west somewhere. Is Bradley Beal going to be in the Wizards uniform next year? Are they breaking this team up?
They are not breaking this team up. Bradley Beal will be in the Wizards uniform next year. Him and John want to play together. I think everybody wants to see them play together as a healthy John Wall. And Bradley Beal's game has advanced so much since John Wall has been hurt. So we will see him in a Wizards uniform next year.
He's one of the best two-way players. You know, he's a better version of Portland's C.J. McCullough. He's a better scorer, and he might be a better defender. But I think he's wasting his talents with Washington.
Well, you know, in listening to Bradley Beal and what he says to the media, you can't believe, necessarily what they say. But I do believe that he wants to be here. It's more than the game for him. Like, his family is here. He wants to raise his sons here. So it's more than just on the court. Now, I definitely think that if we get John Wall back and the Wizards continue to struggle, then Bill will want to eventually go somewhere else. But he still wants to give himself a chance here.
All right, Karita, we'll have you on down the road once training camp is underway and once the season's started. Thanks so much for joining us. Love having you on.
Thank you so much for having me.
That was Karita Parks. Definitely promote her. She does a tremendous job covering everything you need to know about Washington sports. All right, Chris, let's break it down right now. We'll get your little Saints background up here so you feel strong in your predictions here. I think the Bucs are the team to beat this year. Offensively, they have a tremendous amount of wide receivers. Most people don't know this, but the Bucs, the second half of the year, were the stingiest in yards per play. Todd Bowles has turned that defense around. They did a tremendous job in the draft. They got offensive linemen. They have Tom Brady. I think the Patriots go 11-5. I think the Saints go 11-5. Walk us through this division: Bucs, Saints, Falcons, and Panthers.
So for me, and I agree, the Buccaneers, they don't get enough attention for that defense. We're all gushing over what they could do on offense with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Tom Brady. I still think because we're in such a weird year, we haven't had a lot of time, I think the Saints win the division at 11-5. And I think because of that, the Saints haven't lost a lot of big pieces. Their biggest loss really was Teddy Bridgewater, and realistically, he doesn't play if Drew Brees doesn't go down. So I think the Saints have a lot of familiarity. They added Malcolm Jenkins. They added Emmanuel Sanders, who will definitely bring them another threat to that offense. So I think the Saints, with that familiarity and not a long offseason, go 11-5. I think the Bucs go 10-6. This is my thing about the Bucs. I think they're going to make the playoffs, but I think the Bucs are going to start slow. I think their schedule is going to be tough in the first half, and they don't have a lot of time, so they're going to be learning on the fly and developing chemistry on the fly. So I think they'll go 10-6 because I think they'll pick up late in the season like most Brady-led teams do, and they'll get hot. I think the Falcons are looking at another 7-9 year. I don't like what they did this offseason, and I think Dan Quinn is an outstanding man, but probably not a great football coach. And I think they should have just cut the cord and pulled the plug on it last year because
he's a good coordinator. Yes. He's not a head man.
Exactly. And
like a Wade Phillips.
Yep, that's literally the guy I was thinking of. And they looked a little lifeless last year. So I think for them, you're going to see it again come up at some point this season. And also Todd Gurley, who was their big acquisition, they're already saying they have to limit him in training camp because his knee's already getting sore. So that, for me, I'd be worried. And then Panthers, I have them at 6-10. I think this is a very, very talented football team. I'm really excited to see what happens with Joe Brady, Teddy Bridgewater, Christian McCaffrey. But that's a first-year head coach with a first-year offensive coordinator with a bunch of moving parts. They have about 5 to 6 new starters on defense as well in a shortened offseason. I don't think that bodes well. So I think the Panthers are going to end up finishing last.
I think the Panthers are the team of the future. I love what their head coach did. He's an offensive-minded coach. For the first time in the history of the NFL, all 7 draft picks, he drafted defense. He was basically saying, look, with Teddy Bridgewater, Christian McCaffrey, I got you covered. We need to build the defense. But again, no extended training camp, no preseason. How's that going to work? So you like the so let me ask you this final question. Is it Super Bowl or bust for the Saints?
Yeah, I think, and the only way it wouldn't be, you change your expectation is if, a Drew Brees goes down or a Michael Thomas goes down. Then obviously we look at the drawing board and we change it. But as of now, with the way this roster's built, if they don't make the Super Bowl for the 4th straight year, it will be a disappointing finish because they're that talented. They're knocking on the doorstep. We all know they're right there, but they haven't been able to break through. So I agree 1,000%. And Drew Brees added, his first press conference of training camp, he said, only reason I came back is because I'm trying to win another Super Bowl. So, yeah, I agree 100% Super Bowl or bust.
Yeah, and again, I didn't take this. I didn't mean it as a slight. I just think that the Saints are a very good team, but they're not elite. Now, if they get to the Super Bowl, and you got 2 Super Bowls in the last 10, 11 years, yeah, but like you said, it's been a while. They've had some disappointing losses in the playoffs. The teams they probably shouldn't be. Look, throw out the Rams. We're going to have George Lopez on, who's a Rams fan, and you got to live with calls. Referees are terrible. We all know this. But, the last 2 losses to the Minnesota Vikings, the Hail Mary, and again, last year they just didn't show up at home. Very disappointing. Chris, we love having you on. Obviously, I have a tremendous amount of respect for what you do and covering the Saints. So how can people support you?
So people can follow me on Twitter at Rosvoglu Report. And then in terms of my podcast, just Straight Up Saints. You can type it in iTunes, Spotify, wherever people listen to their podcast, and they can get it up there, Straight Up Saints. And follow me on Twitter at Rosvoglu Report.
Yeah, do me a favor. I tell this to all the guests on, and I don't say this to brag. My Twitter page gets between 5 and 10 million hits per month. Anytime you're doing a podcast, just throw it on my page. I will either retweet it or like it, and people could see it. I have a lot of Saints fans who follow me, so you coming on, you did a tremendous job. You made my show smarter. So thank you. We'll have you on again.
Thank you so much for having me, Monte.
All right, have a good Sunday. That was Chris Rosenberg. Listen, if you want Saints coverage, you need to follow him. He does a tremendous job. We're going to have George Lopez come on. George, how are you doing this morning? The NBA playoffs are literally right here. It's been so fast. I see you got your Laker hat going on. Love that. Let's get a little background for you right here. There you go.
Oh, yes. Did my Laker camel hat. Camel hunting. The hunt is on to lift the Larry O'Brien trophy. Now,
George, I'm going to play this for you, and I think this is the second, not the first, the second most influential, iconic, most important shot in NBA Finals history. Walk us through this.
Game 4, 1987 NBA Finals. I can still hear Chick Hearn call it.
George, but didn't they get blown out by like 45 points in Game 3?
No, Game 3, yeah, they got beat pretty bad in Game 3. Game 4 was that was a key game. They didn't want to be even with Boston because the Lakers were the better team. They blew them out in Game 1 and 2. Go back to the Garden, and Boston just took it to them. And Game 4 towards the end, because Boston was up big in Game 4. Casey Jones primarily played his starters, and they started to tire out, and you can see the Lakers starting to come back. But for Laker fans, when we see
back in the day, remember how hot the Boston Garden was?
Yeah, like 90 degrees.
It's like a sweatshop.
Yeah, when we see that shot, everyone here that's a Laker fan, if you hear a clip from Chick Hearn, probably one of the greatest NBA callers in history, you hear, good! Everybody knows that's that baby skyhook from Magic Johnson.
Again, Magic Johnson over Kevin McHale and Robert Parrish. And what's so great about that is Kareem is right there to follow up. But one of Magic Johnson's biggest shot in the history of the NBA, I think only Kyrie Irving game-winning shot in Game 7 was bigger. And I say that just because they were down 3-1. No NBA team has ever come back from a 3-1 deficit. The Cleveland sports franchises, the Browns, the Indians, the Cleveland Maroons, who were a hockey team in the 70s and early 80s, they haven't won a championship since 1964. So Kyrie Irving hits that shot against the Golden State Warriors, who set the record for most wins in a season. They beat Michael Jordan's team, who set the record at 72-10. Golden State was 73-9. They come back from 3-1. So I think that's the second biggest shot.
For Cleveland to win the championship, it's nice for Cleveland to be known for something other than the fumble, the drive, the river catching on fire. It was nice to see. I was actually really happy to see LeBron bring a title back to Cleveland. I think that was great for the city.
All right, George, let's get right to it. We're going to talk the NBA playoff bubble. Let's start with the Clippers. We'll face the number 7 Dallas Mavericks. Break that down for us.
Well, actually, the question that I had with the Clippers, being away, with a hiatus and barely coming back, they haven't been a complete team for most of the season, was team chemistry. How are they going to look coming back? And reading something a couple days ago during the hiatus before they even got back into the bubble, Paul George and Kawhi Leonard were working on team chemistry. They were working to make sure that those two gel together, and you see it in the bubble. Those two, they're a tremendous 1-2 punch. One of the top 3 1-2 punches in the NBA right now. With Dallas, they're a young team, and I believe it's pronounced Doncic. I might be mispronouncing the
Luka Doncic. Yes.
Doncic,
there's several pronunciations. I call him Luka Doncic.
Yeah, the kid is a stud, but you're going to have Patrick Beverley, Paul George, and Kawhi Leonard coming after him, and he scored over 20 points against the Clippers this year, but he had a struggle. I don't think Dallas is ready for the playoffs yet. They're a team on the rise, but I expect the Clippers to knock them out in 5.
Well, here's the thing. Like you said, okay, we'll bring this up right now. Like Luka Doncic is averaging 28 points, 9 rebounds, 8.8 assists. There you see him there shooting a step back 3. My biggest question here is can he take the pounding of a 7-game series? Because he is ball centric. He dominates the ball. You just said it. They're going to put Patrick Beverley on him. They're going to put Morris on him. They're going to put Kawhi on him. They're going to wear this kid down. Now, he's tough as nails in the regular season. He is a no-nonsense baller. He goes to the rim. He gets fouled. He gets beaten up. But can he handle the pounding of 7 games? I think offensively they are very good, and I didn't realize this. The Clippers are fourth. The Clippers are third in the NBA in rebounding. Dallas is fourth. So Dallas can hang in the boards. The Clippers like to go small. Are you going to put Porzingis at the 5? Can they do that? I mean, the key to this series for me is Tim Hardaway Jr. because he's going to be the man open. They're gonna blitz Luka Doncic. They're going to cover Kristaps Porzingis. The guy who's going to be open is Tim Hardaway Jr. He averages 15 points a game. He has shown he can score 30 points a game or more on a night. He can carry a team in a quarter or half. But can he do it for 7 games? I think this game goes 6. Am I wrong for saying that?
I think it's going 5. I just don't think Dallas is ready for the playoffs yet. They're a year or two away. So I'll give them 1 game. I think the Clippers will kind of mail one in, but I think it's Clippers in 5.
Okay. Number 2, Toronto Raptors will face the number 7 Brooklyn Nets. Look, we know this, okay? The Brooklyn Nets have nothing to play for, right? They're without Kevin Durant. They're without Kyrie Irving, and the Brooklyn Nets have shown up in this bubble. They play hard. He's done a tremendous job of coaching this team. The Raptors are second in defense. They were number 1 in defense in the bubble. So the Raptors, but Chris LeVert is a stud. I mean, listen, they're playing no Kyrie Irving, no DeAndre Jordan, and they're playing great. So I think they're going to take a game here. What do you think? I think Toronto wins in 5, maybe 6.
I agree. And actually, I think, and people are going to probably just really disagree with me on this. I think Brooklyn is a better team without Kyrie Irving. I think Kyrie Irving, I know they wanted to build this mega team with him and Durant. I think they would be better off trading Kyrie Irving. They're a better team without him. I think he's a cancer on teams.
Listen, Jacques Vaughn has done a tremendous job. I don't know if he's going to get the job because, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving and DeAndre Jordan are going to have a say who they hire. But Jacques Vaughn, this team, I mean, you saw them the other night against Portland. They had nothing to play for, and it went down to the wire. So I think, one of the things, and again, I'll talk about this in my article tomorrow, one of the things that the Raptors are known for is they play harder than most teams. They dive on the floor. Kyle Lowry led the league in charges. When do you see your best player leading the league in charges? So they're scrappy. They play so hard, but they're not going to out hustle or outwork Jacques Vaughn's Brooklyn Nets. But I have the Raptors winning in 5 or 6 games. Okay, number 3 Denver Nuggets take on the number 6 Utah Jazz. How do you see that panning out?
Honestly, I expect Denver to sweep them. I really do. It's going to come down, a big key is going to be Gobert against, I know I'm having a hard time pronouncing Jokic.
Yeah, the Joker. Yes, Nikola
Jokic, yeah. I know in their head-to-head matchups, Gobert's got the better of him, but I just think that it's Denver's series to win. I expect a sweep. I just don't think Utah has the firepower to match up with Denver. Another key, look at Michael Porter. Michael Porter, I think, is going to be a key. Can he continue what he was doing in the bubble, averaging 22 points a game?
He's been great. Michael Porter Jr. is the first NBA rookie to score 30 points, have 15 rebounds, and hit 5 3-pointers. One of the things that I really look for here, let's say a team. Okay, now the seeds only, they don't matter for home court because there's no home court in the bubble. But let's say a team is down 2-0, okay, and they go back home. You don't think that Utah Jazz crowd is going to be so fired up, but they're not going home now. So you're saying a sweep here. I don't know if they sweep. I say Jazz gets 1, but normally that 3rd game is the pivotal game in a series. You have the home field. But you're saying straight up Denver in 4.
Denver in 4. I'd be really surprised if Utah steals one.
All right, now let's move to the East. We have the Boston Celtics will face the number 6 Philadelphia Sixers. The Celtics are the 3 seed. I think Joel Embiid is going to average 30 and 15, but losing Ben Simmons is just too much. Listen, the big 4 of Jason Tatum, Kemba Walker, Jaylen Brown, and Gordon Hayward is averaging 80 points per game. All those guys are averaging over 17 points. Boston is well coached. I think Brown is on his way out in Philadelphia. I think Embiid, like I said, will average 30 and 15, but I think the Celtics win in 4 here. I think they sweep.
Yeah, I remember earlier this when the bubble started, we actually gave Philadelphia a shot of making it. But when Simmons went down, the floor just came off from under them. Yeah, I don't expect it to be very competitive. Embiid, yeah, he's going to have a tremendous series, but Boston's just got too many weapons, and not having Simmons is just going to really hurt Philadelphia in this series.
Okay, now let's move to the West. Number 4, Oklahoma City Thunder will face the Houston Rockets. Now, the Houston Rockets are without Russell Westbrook. I don't think he's going to play the entire series. I don't care what they're saying. They're saying he may come back for game 4, but he has some problems, obviously. And I'm surprised we haven't seen more of this. Teams have rushed back. They're playing every other day. Now, look, they're not traveling, so they go home and rest. But I'm surprised we haven't seen more quad, more hamstring, more groins. How do you feel this series wins? Billy Donovan will school Mike D'Antoni coaching-wise, correct?
Again, we are not supposed to say that name on this show anymore. That name is banned,
no D.
banned from the English language. Without having Westbrook, which I think is probably one of the best rebounding guards in the NBA, is going to be huge for Houston, because Houston has a disadvantage on the glass because they love to play small. They scrap the center position. Chris Paul is healthy and he's playing with a chip on his shoulder because he thinks he got the short end of the stick out of Houston. Harden's going to go off for at least 40 points a game. We know that. Harden is fresh from due to the shutdown, because normally by this time, come playoff time, he's tired.
Worn down. But wait, let me interrupt you for a second. You said that the Nets are probably better off with Kyrie Irving. Can I make the argument that the Houston Rockets are better off without Russell Westbrook because he can't shoot the three? So when he's on the floor, you don't have to guard him. But now with Harden and basically 4 guards on the floor, you have to guard everyone.
Well, you know what you do? I look at it as the way I would say defend Jordan and the Bulls. Jordan was going to get his points. Harden's going to get his points. You got to contain the other 4 on the court. And I think that's what OKC's plan is going to be. Try to do what you can to slow Harden down, but he's going to get his. You got to stop everybody else and dominate on the glass. So
what is your prediction for that series?
I think Harden steals at least 1 game for Houston, but I'm going OKC in 6.
I think Oklahoma City's the coaching will be a difference. And Chris Paul, he's got that team. Listen, Chris Paul's career was over, right? He was done. And look what he's done. He's been a leader. Our good friend makes a great point. Mr. Triple-Double, posting meaningless stats. And people say, Mike D'Antoni, he doesn't play defense.
Again, Monte, that's going to be part of the drinking game on this show. Every time you say his name.
Well, unfortunately, I don't know what's going on. We're working on the comment sections are down. Only 1 or 2 people can comment.
We're having a field day on Twitter with this. So
okay. Let's move to the Miami Heat versus the Indiana Pacers. Look, the Pacers want to slow down. Miami wants to run and gun. Miami is second in 3-point field goal percentage. The Pacers and Miami Heat, they both don't rebound the ball well. The Pacers are ranked 28th in rebounding, offensive rebounding. The Heat are ranked 29th. Listen, without their starting center, I don't know if the Pacers can do it. T.J. Warren has been lighting it up. Victor Oladipo is starting to come along. Malcolm Brogdon, who's a very good point guard in Milwaukee, they let him go. He's 25-5. So I think the Pacers can hang tough here. The question is, do these young players – they have tremendous leadership in Miami with Jimmy Butler. Udonis Haslam played the other night. He's still on the bench. But do these young guns in Miami take this series, George? How do you see it?
Well, the key is, a lot of teams that love to run and gun – they need to realize come playoff time, and you, as a basketball coach, you know this, the game slows down. It becomes more half court. If you can't play half court basketball in the playoffs, you're going to struggle. And that's going to be the key for Miami. Yeah, they're going to run when they can, but can they play that half court basketball come playoff time? Because it's a more physical game. The refs allow a little bit more. And if Miami can't do that, they're going to be in trouble.
Who do you like in this series?
I do like Miami, but I like them in 7.
Listen, if Sabonis plays, I like Indiana. They're not ruling him out, but he's not even in Orlando yet. So I don't know what's going on with them. He's rehabbing his foot, but they should literally.
If he comes back, he still has to do a 10-day warranty.
That's what I'm saying.
Pretty much out for this series.
And think about this, George. We talk about legendary big threes. T.J. Warren was on the Phoenix Suns. Okay, the Phoenix Suns have Devin Booker. The Phoenix Suns could have picked Luka Doncic, but the owner of the Suns went to Arizona, so they drafted DeAndre. And everyone in the Suns organization wanted Luka Doncic, and they said no. He said no. So can you imagine this? Devin Booker at the 2, Luka Doncic at the 3, and Luka Doncic at the 1, and T.J. Warren at the 3. That's almost as good as a young Harden, Durant, and Westbrook.
Yeah, I didn't know Dan Snyder owned the Phoenix Suns as well as a Washington.
He does. Okay, let's move on. Milwaukee Bucks will face the Orlando Magic, number 8 seed. Look, I live here in Florida, and I tried to write articles about the Orlando Magic because we wanted to get media credentials. But they're so bad, it's hard to write. Now, DJ Augustine, sometimes he starts, sometimes he doesn't. I don't know how this guy is a starting point guard in the NBA. He averages 10 points and 4 assists. You look at Damian Lillard. You look at every point guard across the West, Luka Doncic. You look at these guys, James Harden, putting up numbers. This is your starting point guard. Look, Milwaukee rolls here. And people are going to say Milwaukee's they're going to get to the finals. They're 4-8 in their last 12 games, so something's not right about the Bucks.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned about it. I don't know if they already knew they had the number 1 spot sewn up. Were they kind of just going through the motions, trying to get back into playoff shape during this 8 games seeding tournament, if you will? But yeah, there is some concern. And then the Freak Geek, they got into his head, and when he headbutted somebody the other day and got suspended for it, is he going to?
It's funny because my friend Andrea, who lives in Wisconsin, she brought that up. She said he's angry. I'm like, yeah, he's angry because he's feeling the pressure. There's a big difference between climbing up the mountain and supposedly being the one that's the king on the mountain.
Exactly.
And I've said this for 3 months. If he doesn't get to the NBA Finals, he's going out west.
I would love to see him in purple and gold. I know that. But
I'd love to see Bradley Beal wearing the Lakers, which brings us to our final point. Okay. Here's what I'm going to say. George, I'm almost rooting for the Portland Trailblazers. And let me tell you why. And you know that I am a die-hard LeBron James fan. There's no one I like more on and off the court. I like 5 people in the world. LeBron James is one of them. I don't even know him. But here's why I think it may be time for the Lakers to lose and for LeBron to get ousted in the first round of the playoffs. I am tired of organizations relying on LeBron James to do everything. Okay, you look at this Laker roster, and it's a bunch of misfits. Dwight Howard, Dion Waiters, J.R. Smith, Caldwell Pope. These are guys that wouldn't even be considered, 6th or 7th men. I love Alex Caruso as a young player. Kyle Kuzma's a flake. Okay, I like him, but he's a flake. They probably should have kept Brandon Ingram. But, George, maybe it's because if LeBron wins this series and LeBron gets to the finals and loses or plays the Clippers and lose, they're going to be like, they need to blow this thing up. There are 2 players on this team who scare you. The rest of the team is god-awful.
Well, this series, and I'll be honest, it scares the hell out of me.
Yeah.
Damian Lillard is playing unconscious right now. He is playing on top of his head.
George, he's playing angry. He's mad.
He scares me. And the fact that we don't have Avery Bradley, who would have been defending him, worries me. And I was like, who are they going to put on him? Because he's going to go off. Now, the only thing is Portland doesn't play defense. Not as bad as that moron in Houston.
No, they don't. Listen, they're just as bad defensively.
No one is as bad as that idiot in Houston.
Right, but the thing is, when you have a big man like Anthony Davis set a screen, at least Houston switches it. In Portland, Nurkic, Jerkic, and who's their backup now? The guy from Miami. What's the center? The big guy. No. Anyway, they have 2 7-footers on there. Hakeem Whiteside. Okay, Hakeem Whiteside. They don't even pretend to guard a guard. So here are some of my concerns, and then we'll get your prediction. When Carmelo Anthony scores more than 20 points a game, they're 20-6. Okay? CJ McCullough, we saw it yesterday, can take over a game in the 4th quarter. The Lakers are built to go big. The Lakers at the end of the game will go Dwight Howard, Anthony Davis, LeBron James, where Portland is going to go small. Okay? You got Gary Trent Jr. out of Duke, who's all of a sudden just as good as a shooter as CJ McCullough and Carmelo Anthony. The Lakers, Portland can go big Collins is 7 foot. Hakeem Whiteside is 7 foot. Their center is 7 foot. They can also go small. The Lakers can't go small and beat them. This scares the hell out of me.
Yeah, another thing that scared me in watching these games, where was the defense for the Lakers? Frank Vogel is a defensive coach. And when the Lakers hired him, he said, you come in the paint, we're going to punch you in the mouth. The defense wasn't there in these 8 games. I have a group text with my uncles, my brother, and cousins. So we're always talking Lakers and Dodgers when the games are on. And one of the things that I brought up for the Lakers is they're shooting way too many 3-pointers. And they're only hitting at a 30% clip.
They're last in offense in the bubble, George. Last in offense.
Play the inside-out game, drive and dish. But what they're doing is just passing around the perimeter and just chucking it up from the 3. And they can't do that. They got to get it inside to Anthony Davis. He's a tremendous passer as a center. He will find the open man or find the guy cutting into the lane. That's how they got to attack Portland. If they try to just stay outside and shoot threes, they're done.
So give us your prediction for this one.
I still think the Lakers are going to beat them, but it's going to be a tough 6-game series. I think like I said, Damian Lillard's going to get his. Melo is the key. Melo is the key, and because he's a perfect fit for Portland.
I brought you 100%. He's like the Olympic Melo, like he just catches and shoots. I brought Rico on because he doesn't really follow basketball that much.
I do.
It looked like he was sleeping. So Rico, are you awake?
It looks like he just threw the posters on at the last minute.
Rico, why are they crooked?
What's that? Oh, because I just slapped him on. I was like that and bang, bang.
Rico, did you lose your special privileges from last week?
Yeah, I did. I get that. Monte calls me, tells me what not to do every week.
Rico, I'm waiting for our drinking game on the show, so I'm all set. So
wow, what is that? What is that right there?
Buchanan Scotch.
Wow, that's big time right there. That's big time. George, real quick before we let you go, there's going to be no football. You said you've been tailgating with your friends for 20 years. What are you guys going to do on Saturdays right now? Talk about the history of tailgating that you have.
Well, we've been doing it for 20 years, at least 20 years at USC football. We actually we have a group. We're called the 39th and Menlo Tailgaters. And, we lost our spot a couple years ago when the Rams came in and the LAFC soccer team was having their stadium built. So we lost our corner. We had to move to a new spot. They're building a museum for George Lucas. We lost that spot. We're on campus, but we always got together tailgating. 7:30 p.m. game. We were there at 5 a.m. in line to get ready to tailgate. Oh, we were serious about it.
No, I see the food. And how many are there of you? Was there 6?
There's 4 actual season ticket holders.
Right.
So it's just the 4 of us. And then, the other people that come to our tailgating spot, but the ticket holders is just myself, my friend Eddie, Paulie, and Petey. It's just the 4 of us that are the
Eddie, Paulie, and Petey?
Yeah, Paul, Eddie, and Petey.
Sounds like some of Rico's crew right there.
Yeah,
sounds like a little,
Yeah, so we
doing at an Italian restaurant.
Yeah, we got photos posted. The OG 39th and Menlo tailgaters. Real quick, if I can just add one thing about the tailgating group.
Sure.
We have a member. His name is Bernardo Flores. He was a pitcher at USC. Was drafted by the White Sox. Actually got the call up to the show yesterday. So he's a big league team, and I just want to say, Bernardo, all of us are proud of you, man. Keep working. He's got every time he posts something, it's hashtag not done yet. He knows, this is just the beginning, and I just want to throw a shout out to him.
That's awesome. Congratulations. And George, thanks so much for joining us again. You got the Lakers winning in 6. I'm going to have my wrap-up tomorrow. I'm flip-flopping right now. I don't see how they get it done.
It's going to be a tough 6, but I got the Lakers in 6.
All right, George, thanks so much for joining us. Always love having you on. Have a good Sunday.
You too, guys.
Take care. All right, Rico, welcome to the show. For those of you who don't know, Rico and I did a reading last night of a script that I thought was very impressive. And Rico, you played a Jamaican cop who was in Jamaica. Is that correct? Rico, we can't hear you. Can't hear you. No, can't hear you. All right, we're having problems. We're having problems with Rico's mic. Oh, wait, hold on. It says you're muted, Rico. Let's see if we get you unmuted. You're muted, but yeah, you got to work it out on your end. It's not on my end. But we did a reading last night of a script, and it was really good. Now we can hear you. There you go, Rico. Okay, try to say something now. No, I think your microphone is not working. I think your computer mic is working, but I can't hear you when you talk in that microphone. Okay, we still can't hear you. Rico, try to oh wait, try now. No, we cannot hear. Log in here, log back in and log out, and we'll try it again. So we did this reading last week. Our good friend Ryan Porter had a script. It was very funny. It was kind of I would say it's going to be a Disney production. He did a tremendous job, and Rico was there. It's funny because this show is kind of making me and Rico hang out more than I want to. How are you, Rico? You there now?
Yeah, I'm here now.
All right, we can hear you. So, Rico, you played a Jamaican. Do you have the accent?
It wasn't a Jamaican. It was a Haitian, and it was a little off my Haitian, my Haiti accent. But you know what? I got to tell you, you crushed it. Monte was the star, so Monte was in the whole time. So a lot fell on his lap because if he was cold and flat, this guy who's worked on this script for like months and hours that you can't even imagine would have closed that Zoom or Microsoft meeting that we were on and cried. He would have totally cried. If
we're having problems with the comments for some reason on YouTube, but look at this, Rico. Muting Rico before he speaks. Classic. But it was fun, Rico. We did a good job. We had a tremendous job. Rico, so I started the show. Okay, we wanted to do the show we're going to start doing the show from 11 to 12:30. We're going to go over a little bit this week. Chris Roseglue was a little bit late. We're having some technical issues that we're working through. But I started the show, and I told everyone that we had a big, big announcement. Now, here's part of the big announcement. Since we've been doing the full Monte Sports Show, and Joe and the crew of Nuts and Bolts Sports over the past month adding their shows, we are up 395% in the last 28 days. And I've been telling people all week when I saw this, when you got 395% of the population behind you, you can't fail. Presidents only get 50%. We have 395%.
And I take full credit for it. I don't want to lie about that. When you showed me that, I was like, of course. What did you think was going to happen?
All right. So here's the big announcement, Rico. The big announcement is starting Tuesday, the first week of the football season, every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific time, Rico and I will be doing the NFL recap show. It's not going to be like this. It's going to be me and Rico. He's going to break down every AFC game. And me and Rico argued about this. He's like, I don't want to talk about the Jets and the Bengals. I said, we have listeners all across the country, so we got to break down every team. And I will break down every game in the NFC. We'll have one guest on to talk about their team. We'll ask them 5 questions. And it's going to be a much more hip version of Inside the NFL every Tuesday. Rico and Monte, how do you feel about that?
I'm very happy about it, especially because when somebody beats Pittsburgh, I'm going to totally be like, and that bum threw 3 touchdowns, 175 yards. He's terrible. He's the worst player I've ever seen. I think my comments compared to yours when we do the recap is going to be very, very different.
Oh, it's going to be so excited.
Yours is going to be very professional. Mine's going to be very opinionated and very, how can I say, demeaning to certain players who beat my teams. Especially if you just notice that I'm really putting a player down. You could pretty much bet that I bet against him and he beat me. So,
your whole reaction is going to be Pittsburgh Steelers and then who you lost on in the week.
Yeah, exactly. So if you listen to the show on Sunday and you hear who I pick and then I lost that bet, you should really listen to what happens Tuesday night to hear how I recap that particular game and be very, belligerent Is that
okay, Rico? Before we get on again, we're joined by Rico Graziano. There's his Twitter account. You're listening to the Full Monty Sports Show. We're going to start doing the show every Sunday from. We're going to go a little over this time from 11 to 12:30 on Tuesday nights, starting the first week of the NFL. We're going to be on every night from 9 to 10, 1 hour show. I mean, every Tuesday from 9 to 10, 1 hour show. But I have to ask you this question because I opened up, and I know you only pay attention to this show 5 minutes before you come on until you're done. You never watch the beginning of the show. Rico, has anyone other than your family ever called you a beautiful man?
Actually, funny story, just last week, my friend's wife said, I see why Rico got Melissa. He's a very good-looking man.
No. Has anyone ever called you beautiful?
Beautiful. Besides my mind? No.
Okay. No one has ever called me beautiful. No, but someone did call me this week. They called me what was it? You're an intellectual elite. But then, Rico, they also called the kid carrying the carts in Trader Joe's an intellectual elite as well. So I used the Seinfeld quote, like, remember when the doctor tells Elaine that she's breathtaking, and then she's like, I'm breathtaking, and then he calls the ugly baby breathtaking too? Like, it was just like a back end. So no one's ever called you beautiful, correct?
No, but your knowledge of shows from the 90s is phenomenal. Just even the lines, I'm very impressed. You're a very intelligent human being, which that might be the first time somebody said that to you.
Yes,
so
no, it is definitely the first time someone said it, and I actually said that if anyone really got to look at my SAT scores, they would be like, how do you go out in public without like a sponsor?
I was just thinking, I wonder, because I really want to wear this, that if I wore it, even though it's not working, does it make me look cooler?
It does make you look cooler, but it also makes me think that I need to call AT&T and have a comment on my bill.
Yeah,
you look like a customer service representative.
That's right.
All right, Rico, let's get right into it. Fox Sports host Colin Cowherd, who makes $5 million a year, says the Ravens are going 16-0. That is not happening. But tell us who will have the best record in the AFC and the NFC.
I
don't think anyone's going 16-0, right?
Nobody's going. No. That's just not happening. That's just. There's too many variables, and I can get into the reason what these variables are, and even the travel, the who's playing what team had a high point, had a bad practice. There's a million reasons why that is a feat that is not impossible, but it's just highly, highly unlikely to happen. It'll take away from the Miami Dolphins. That year, there was 2 games. When I say Miami Dolphins, I'm talking about the undefeated Miami Dolphins.
Yes. Thank you for clarifying that. Thank you.
Yeah, so I just want to say the undefeated Miami Dolphins, because that will never happen again. I can clearly say.
So for Colin to say that is ridiculous, right? I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, he throws out some ridiculous statements sometimes. When I watch him, my friend used to work on his show as a producer, and sometimes I'd watch him, and then I realized, I met the producing core, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's where he gets his stuff from. Monte, when I tell you their level of sports knowledge and yours, you are like 10 times the higher sports.
Rico, you already got the job. You don't have to keep building me up. My sister is texting me right now, says, see, he always builds you up because everyone thinks I pick on you. You got the job. You're here on Sundays, you're here on Tuesday. You don't have to build me up anymore.
I got to tell you, Cynthia looks great. Cynthia is Monty's sister who joined us yesterday for the table read. At first, I was like, oh, my God, look how pretty she looks. I haven't seen her in a while. She looks really good.
It's funny because she said you look disheveled. That was a direct quote from her.
I was disheveled last night. It was 3 hours deep. I had to cook dinner. I had my kid banging on the door last night, and I was like,
at one point, again, nobody cares about this. We're really talking to the 1%. At one point, I look at Rico because there was like 9 people, and Rico looks like he's falling asleep.
It was a good script, but it was a lot of hours.
It was long. How about me, who was reading every other page?
Every other page. You read from beginning to end. I had a 3-page run. You, on the other hand, out of 120 pages, you probably read 100 of them. I was very highly impressed.
That's what I do, Rico. I act, I sing, I dance. But let's not talk about me. Give us the AFC and NFC best records.
Best record on you're going to kill me with the NFC because I really think New Orleans Saints is a strong team. No. You keep saying that. Sean Payton finds a way to win. He wins. He finds a way to make a defense out of nothing. I got to give him that. Even though he has good players, somehow there's always a guy or two on that defense who steps up every year. We know he's a little shady when it comes to defense. So his Bill Belichick. Yes, I did just get a haircut. And
way to stay focused on the task. When I post that stuff, it's not for you. It's for the fans to see it. But way to be a fan and not be part of the show. Okay.
I am a big fan of myself and the show. Just to let you know, if you're not your own biggest fan, who's gonna be?
No one. That is correct. Okay, so you like the Saints?
Kansas City. I think the Saints in Kansas City, and I honestly think that they may meet in the Super Bowl again. But this time, I think the Saints inch them out in the final.
So wait, okay. So is this Levi talking right now that the Saints?
No. This is all me because I think Levi's on the same as you with the Saints. I don't think he believes in them, but we both believe in Michael Thomas and that he's unstoppable. And there's nobody who can stop Michael Thomas.
Okay, so you have the Saints being the best team in the NFC and the Kansas City Chiefs. My good friend Jared, who's been on the show, we actually did some shows together before we started this. He says that the Kansas City Chiefs aren't even going to make the playoffs. So that's for a whole other topic.
Playoffs. What's going to happen? The whole team's going to get COVID-19 and they're just going to shut down? Because that's the only way they don't make the playoffs.
He says that Denver will be better than them this year.
He's cute.
Okay. All right. So who has a better season this year? George Kittle, tight end from San Francisco, or Travis Kelce? Kittle, 85 catches, 5 touchdowns in 14 games. Kelce, 97 catches, 5 touchdowns, 16 games. Kittle's just signed a $15 million a year contract. Tight ends are starting to get paid. Kelce signed a $14 million a year. Who has a better year, Rico?
Well, I think because George Kittle from San Francisco, he is a wide receiver number one. He doesn't have much competition, and there's only so much ball to go around. And when I say that, there's only so many offensive plays. His real competition was Deebo Samuels, who just got hurt. So he is a number one on the field. His number is going to get called more than anybody else. Travis Kelce, on the other hand, for Kansas City, has to share the ball with a lot of people. There's a lot of people on that team who are. It's just a numbers. It's purely a numbers game. So I say George Kittle easily has a better year. And not just because I'm not saying he's a better player. I'm just saying he's going to have much more opportunity than Travis Kelce does with Kansas City.
Right, because I think George Kittle is the number one passing option on San Francisco, where Kelce could be the second or third, depending on the time, the score, possession, what else. Someone just said that the reason why the comments are disabled today is because Rico's in a. You have no comment on that, Rico?
No, actually, as you said, because it cut out for a second. So I didn't get to hear that, which is probably meant that
Rico's
I wasn't.
Inappropriateness is why there's no comments.
Oh, that's right. Stream is shutting me down, huh?
We're being censored. Okay, Rico, a lot of people don't want to talk about rookies when it comes to fantasy football, but as you've seen with Kyler Murray, listen, Baker Mayfield didn't do anything, but he started after the second year. After the second game. So rookies have an impact on fantasy football. So let's go. Raiders picked Henry Ruggs out of Alabama with the 12th overall pick. Over or under 60 catches?
I'm going to go with the under 60 catches. He's compared to Tyreek Hill a lot, and he has Tyreek Hill's rookie year, which was a great rookie year, was 60 catches and 12 touchdowns. So when you do the comparison, it's Tyreek Hill is something special. Even though he was number one off the board in a league in a deep wide receiver draft, I still think he'll have under 60 catches just because he hasn't created the chemistry yet with his wide receivers.
Okay, so Broncos picked Jerry Jeudy again, Alabama with the 15th overall pick. Over under 60 catches.
Well, again, I'm gonna have to run with the under on this one. I just because I don't know so much about these wide receivers, I don't watch as much college football as I bet on it.
No, I know, but Drew Lock was 4-1 his last 5. They're going to throw the ball. They drafted 2 wide receivers. They've drafted the kid out of Penn State. They got Melvin Gordon now in the backfield. They're going to be very good offensively.
Well, the thing is so because like I said, I had to write some notes. So Pat Schumer, the offensive coordinator for Denver Broncos, he is proven to spread the ball a lot. He likes to spread the ball a lot. So to see a rookie catch 60 passes it's tough for me to see on that team. And 60 passes is a lot. That's a lot. I mean, again, one of the best rookie wide receiver years was Tyreek Hill, and he had 60. So the number 60 is a hard number, and it's going to be the under on most of these wide receivers that we talk about. Okay,
the Eagles picked Jalen Reagor out of TCU. He should be their number 1 wide receiver besides their tight end Ernst. So I think he goes over 60 catches. What do you say? He's got elite speed. I think he's going to be a very productive wide receiver for them.
He's got potential. He's got potential. With Ertz and Goddard and Miles Sanders now on there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of this again. A lot of ball to be spread around. But he's the type of guy that if he pops off and he's the type of guy is that what I was talking about that you put on your fantasy draft team. You don't put a kicker, and if he shows that he can play in week 1, you don't drop him. You keep him. You drop somebody else, and then you pick up a kicker off the waiver wire.
Okay, what about CeeDee Lamb of Oklahoma in Dallas? Listen, he was an absolute stud in Oklahoma playing on turf. He's not going to get double teamed because they're going to double team Amari Cooper. I think CeeDee Lamb could be the most productive wide receiver out of this rookie class.
That's a high possibility that he could because of the cast around him. And like you said, he's going to be getting a lot of one-on-ones. And I feel like he's going to have a rookie year like Juju Smith-Schuster had on Pittsburgh, where he's going to have those big blowout 90-yard touchdown. Like he had a few catches to where once he caught the ball, nobody was He's off to the races. So he has a big potential. He has a lot of upside to him. It's just where, as fantasy, where does he go in the draft? Where's his value at? I would love to have him sitting on my bench because at the end of the day, go ahead, George, drink it up. I love how me and George are in California. It's 9:30 in the morning, and George is showing me a bottle of alcohol.
Oh, that is classic. Listen, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. So you think CeeDee Lamb can definitely be, 60 or more catches?
He'll be the closest out of all of them. And again, even though that team has a lot of ball to spread around with Ezekiel Elliott and Cast, it's just he has potential. He has probably really high potential, purely like you said, because of the one-on-ones he'll be getting. And there's not many cornerbacks who could keep up with this kid.
No, okay. And finally, listen, I think Justin Jefferson out of LSU. Listen, Stephon Diggs is now in Buffalo, right? So Justin Jefferson is with the Vikings. It's going to be Thielen, it's going to be Dalvin Cook, and it's going to be Justin Jefferson. So I think out of all of them, if I had to bet, I would say CeeDee Lamb and Justin Jefferson both have over 60 catches. Do you agree?
Well, you know what? Diggs left behind 94 targets. Somebody got to catch those 94 passes. And Jefferson caught 111 catches out of 122 targets. That is insane that somebody got thrown. Think about it. And they don't play 17 games like in the NFL.
And they play elite defenses in the SEC.
Yeah, and he got thrown. His coach called his number 122 times. That is phenomenal. 60 catches is very possible. I would take the over on that one purely because I think they're going to feature him because he's a beast.
He's a beast. And listen, like you said, 94 receptions are up for catching with Stephon Diggs gone. All right, great job covering wide receivers. Now, again, I'm doing one fantasy football draft on Saturday, and then I have one the following Sunday. So who is a better football running back this year in fantasy? Dalvin Cook of Minnesota or Nick Chubb of the Cleveland Browns?
I am so high on Nick. I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. I am so high on Nick Chubb. I think I think that towards the end of the season last year, he showed what a beast he can be. And I feel like he came into his own in the sense of he wasn't trying to be a team player. In a certain way, a running back needs to be selfish and needs to show, like, I don't want to spread the ball. I don't want to be a team player. Like Le'Veon Bell, even though he was with Antonio Brown, he always was, I'm Le'Veon Bell, and I'm going to do what I need to do.
Is that your little son? Does he want to make an appearance, Rico?
He does want to make an appearance.
All right, real quick. He doesn't like the full Monte show. He doesn't like it.
He wanted a sign. He's kissing it. I wish I could show you. He's kissing it. I had him over here all quiet.
Oh, all right, Rico, real quick before your son takes over the house. DeAndre Hopkins of Arizona or Julio Jones from Atlanta. Hopkins had 104 catches. Jones had 99. As someone who's going to do 2 fantasy football drafts this year, one's going to be for big-time money. If I have the opportunity to take Julio Jones or Hopkins, who am I taking?
You take Julio Jones because he's solid money. You know what you're getting. You know you're going to get the numbers. You don't know what's going to happen with Hopkins. He might
listen, but he's going to Kyler Murray in a pass-happy offense in Arizona.
Yeah, well, again, you know, double teaming, triple teaming. He doesn't have, you know, I have faith in Larry Fitzgerald of pulling some plays, but guy's been in the league 17 years. You know, he might be able to. He might be, if he can be taken down one-on-one Fitzgerald. That's it. Your Hopkins, your whole Hopkins pick relies on Larry Fitzgerald being able to do what he's done.
And are you saying also because Atlanta lost Hooper, their tight end, who had 75 catches to Cleveland, so now there's going to be more balls for Calvin Ridley and Julio Jones?
Yes, 100%.
So you're really strong. Like, you think it's not even going to be close, correct?
Not that it's not going to be close. I'm just going. You got to go what you know, and you got to go with what's the safest bet on big money leagues in the sense of, like, yes, he's got boom or bust, but at the end of the day, it's Julio Jones. Julio Jones for the last 5 years has been in the top 7 picks in the NFL on fantasy football. He's been in the top 10 for the last 7 years. He's not this year, but not that he deserves to be. But I go what's secure. I like the secure.
Would you take him as your number 2 wide receiver overall? Like, if you have the 7th or 8th pick in the draft, are you taking Julio Jones? As your number 1 pick in the first round?
Well, no, you know what? This year I'm going very running back heavy all throughout. Running backs. I plan on that. In fantasy football, you're allowed to get 6 running backs max. I plan on maxing out my running backs this year. Real fast.
If you only play 2 and on the utilities, so 3 of them. So you're telling me in your first 2 rounds, you're taking running backs over Julio Jones?
I would take running backs over Julio Jones. Yes, I would. Purely because the wide receiver class in this fantasy draft is so big. I mean, Amari Cooper isn't going number 1. Amari Cooper isn't going off the board till like the 4th or 5th round. That's a number 1 wide receiver going off the board in the 4th round. So when it comes down to it, this is one of the biggest. It's a passing league. So now the running backs are like this. The wide receivers are like that.
All right,
so
fair point.
That's where me and Levi have decided that this is where it's at, and that's we've done multiple mock drafts to come to this conclusion.
Okay, listen. Finally, Rico, I keep saying the most competitive division in the National Football League will be the AFC West. I think the Chargers, without Phillip Rivers, will be improved. I think they are so deep on both sides of the ball. Very underrated wide receivers, very underrated running backs. Derwin James is an absolute stud at the back of that defense. I think the Broncos have an elite defense. They bolstered their running back with Melvin Gordon and their wide receiving core. Obviously, the Kansas City Chiefs, they have 20 of their 22 starters returning from the Super Bowl. And I think the Raiders will be 7-9. I have no faith really in the Raiders, but I think that division is the most competitive division in football. What do you say?
I somewhat agree with you. I really believe, and I might be because I'm a little impartial to it, but I think the AFC North with Cleveland, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, and the Ravens is going to be really competitive because even on a bad year, they always beat each other somehow, some way. And I think Cincinnati is not going to be, even though their defense is comprised of people like me or you. That's what I feel like. But you know what? Defenses tend to surprise every so often. So
Rico, I can hit in the open. I'm a great open field tackler.
Great. I've heard that about you. And I hear you're a great bike rider. I mean, oh, that's right. You post about it every day.
All right, Rico. So you're saying now, would you be surprised if there was 3 teams from the AFC North to make the playoffs?
Not this year. The year after, maybe. But this year they haven't implemented. They're not implementing the new playoff structure, are they?
Yeah, but you can still get 2 wild cards from the division.
Yeah, I don't think that's happening. That's so
So,
rare. I can't remember when was the last time that even happened.
So wait, who are you picking record-wise? Who's going to the playoffs? You're obviously taking the Ravens to make the playoffs. Are you saying the Steelers take the wild card?
I would like to see the Steelers take the wild card, but again, you'll know who's taking the wild card by week 3. Like by week 3, because I think this year, not week 3. I'm sorry, because there is no preseason. So I would think Pittsburgh. I think 2 teams come out of the North, whether it's Pittsburgh or Cleveland. Because if Cleveland plays the way they showed that they can on those little windows that they looked amazing, they'll be tough to beat. They're going to be a tough team to beat. So I think it'll be Pittsburgh or Cleveland taking the wild card spot.
Rico, I think it was so funny at the beginning of the segment when I said, "Have you ever been called beautiful?" You said no, but 2 weeks ago someone said I was handsome. Like you remember, me too. Like because it's so rare that someone gives us a compliment that we have to remember when it actually happens, right?
I have to relive it multiple times that somebody said that. Every time I have to every time I look in the mirror, somebody thinks I'm beautiful.
So what did she say? You were very attractive? Is that what she said?
She said, "I see why Melissa's with him. He's a very good-looking man."
Okay, and is she over 55? This woman who?
No, surprisingly, she's a very attractive young blonde.
Okay, all right, Rico. It's that time now for Rico's rant. We use this clip every week from Napoleon Dynamite, where Uncle Rico just talks trash. As he says here, back in '92, I used to be able to throw a pigskin a quarter mile. So, Rico, here it is. Rico's rant.
Well, here we go. My rant is more about ego on people when you go into, we sit here and we talk about, 2 weeks ago, I was talking about the NFL players and commenting about them opting out and how selfish they are. And the reality of it is I'm the selfish one. I'm the guy who it's human. If they give. And as soon as they stop giving, I start hating on them. Instead of being grateful for everything that they've done, football players are putting their life on the line. Every play they say is comparable to a car accident on the offensive line and most of the players. So physically, now here's me, a loudmouth on a show, talking that they should be grateful that they got their jobs where they're literally, selling the back end of their lives because, not many football players have, they don't cross mid-70s, never mind offensive linemen, and, they don't live to become old men is what I'm saying. And then you have people like me with a loud mouth who are not grateful. And it's kind of reminds me of I don't know why I'm going here, but you ever lend somebody money and then when if by some chance you get paid back, they expect a thank you when they pay you back the money you've lent them.
Can I just say, when you talk about your gambling stories, why do I get the impression you've lent a lot of people money? And some people, some people are afraid not to pay you back.
Well, no, I just don't hear from them anymore. I've been blocked. And I was like, for $100, you've blocked my number? And there's nothing that I enjoy more than bumping into somebody in the street that when if they owed me money from a bet. It's stupid. I'm not a bookie or anything, but if they owed me $100 or $50 and I see them and that first moment of them being startled is worth every penny. Maybe that moment is the reason I lend too much money out in a certain way.
Rico, it reminds me of the movie A Bronx Tale, where the kid he's chasing someone down. He's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, he owes me $20. He goes, "What are you chasing for? Do you like this kid?" He says, "No." He goes, "For $20, he's out of your life. He'll never talk to you again."
That's right. I see. My problem is I lend it to people I do like, and then I have to go chase them down. I had a friend of mine. I lent $100 to. Oh, somebody wanted to jump in, and he finally paid me back 5 years later. And when he handed me the money, I turned to him and I said, "Oh, you want me to thank you?" said, "You're 5 years late." I go,
Did you charge him a vig?
no, even more. I brought that up. Oh, look, somebody wants to say hello.
All right, Rico. Oh my God, how adorable is that kid? How adorable. Why is he destroying the full Monte wallpaper though?
I don't know. I need it for next week. I don't got much ink in my printer. He better slow up with pulling these things down.
Rico, so real quick before we let you go, explain to people who don't know the gambling world what a VIG is.
A VIG is when you go to Atlantic City, or not Atlantic City, when you go to Las Vegas, a VIG is you put in a bet. So if you put in a bet for, I'm sorry, that's the So the VIG is if you bet $100 and you win, you only win 90. That $10 that's in between is called the VIG. So if I want to win $100, I need to put 110. So there's what's called a 10% VIG, and that's how the casinos make their money on gambling. They don't care who you bet as long as you pay the VIG. And so,
right. So if you loan someone money, $100, and they don't pay you back, you say it's 10% VIG every week. So if they don't pay you back in a week, it's $110. They don't pay back in 2 weeks, it's $120, right? That's the VIG.
Well, that's the on the loan of the VIG. We were talking I thought you were talking about the betting. And the difference is that the VIG from the mafia is weekly, the VIG from the government and credit cards is monthly. So it's illegal to do it, I guess, every 10 days, but every 25 days you're allowed to rob people every 25 days.
It reminds me of a story real quick. I remember when I stopped going to college, and I was making my student loan payments, and then I wasn't working, so I couldn't pay them. I was paying $100 a month, and then they call me up and they say, "Hey, you haven't been paying $100 a month, so now we're going to raise it. You have to pay $125 a month." I'm like, how does that work? I was like, lower it. Like, if I can't afford $100 a month, how am I going to afford $125? You should make it $75 a month. Who's doing the math here?
Oh, the math! I love that all stores are closing in LA because now they were like, okay, from the virus, now it's August. You need to pay the last 3 months rent that you've been closed.
Yeah, listen, that's
it's every 60% of stores on 3rd and on Larchmont are closing. The landlords don't even care.
It's unbelievable. Rico, listen, I'll let you get back to your son. Thank you so much. Thank you for talking about. Listen, you made a mistake. You said that you were being selfish. And I say this all the time. I have no problem with players opting out. I wish Avery Bradley, who's the Lakers' best defender, didn't opt out because I think he's safer in the bubble than he is at home. But his child has a bronchial issue, so I understand. So you made a great point in your rant.
I have a quick question before we go off. So you think I should take some of George's advice on basketball games to bet? Do you think he's
not when it comes to the Lakers?
No, the Lakers are off the table. I know how he is on that.
Yes. Take George's advice. Reach out to him.
I'm going to start doing that, and I want to I'll let you know and keep track on how George does and how much of my money he wins or loses.
I love how Rico is checking George because Rico gets jealous when I spend too much time talking to George during the show.
I'm checking his references on gambling.
Rico, thanks so much. Listen, Rico does a tremendous job. I want to thank everyone for listening to the Full Monty Sports Show. Listen, I'm sorry that we didn't have the comments. We'll get that fixed by next week. Rico did a tremendous job in his rant. Rico's rant is always exciting. And now I'm going to give you my extra point. Here's my extra point. Look, there's a common lie in sports where people say that they're buying a championship. Like when LeBron James went to Miami, they're buying a championship. No, they didn't buy a championship. He took a pay cut. There's a common lie in sports that big markets are always going to be successful. Let's throw out baseball, okay? Because baseball, there's no real salary cap. So the Yankees can spend 10 times more than the Pittsburgh Pirates or the Kansas City Chiefs or the Oakland A's. Now, we all saw the movie Moneyball, right, with Billy Beane, where he invented a way to be competitive and be good despite not having money. That only works in Major League Baseball for the first couple of years because once these guys get good, they start putting up numbers, they're going to go somewhere else for free agency. They're going to go to get paid. But this common knowledge of big markets dominate sports is one of the greatest lies ever perpetrated on the sports public. And here's why. Who won the Super Bowl? The Kansas City Chiefs. The Knicks have been terrible since 2000. James Dolan took over. They make more money than any other NBA franchise. The Dallas Cowboys make more money. They haven't been to a Super Bowl since the mid-90s. Who's dominating in the NBA? The Lakers haven't made the playoffs for 6 years until LeBron James got there. The Milwaukee Bucks are doing great. The Oklahoma City Thunder are doing great. The Golden State Warriors won 3 titles. They're not in LA. So this notion that, you have to be in Chicago. The Chicago Bears haven't won a Super Bowl since 1985. This notion you have to be in New York and LA is false. It's not the money you spend, it's how you spend it. And we're seeing all across the NFL, the NBA, it's teams in smaller markets who know how to run a franchise, winning titles, winning divisions. And that is my extra point. Again, I want to thank everyone for listening. I want to thank Karita Parks, Chris Rosevaglu. I want to thank George Lopez and Rico Show Me the Money Graziano. You've been listening to the full Monte Sports Show. And in the immortal words of Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'll be back.